This episode is brought to you by San Pellegrino Ciao. A gift from Italy to your home. San Pellegrino Ciao is a flavored sparkling water made with real fruit juice, finished with a pinch of Sicilian salt for a perfectly balanced taste. So which flavor will you choose? Peach, lime, blood orange, cherry, or maybe the all-new limoncello? Crafted in Italy with 0 grams of added sugar. San Pellegrino Ciao. Buy it now.
Hey, Fidelity. What's it cost to invest with the Fidelity app?
Start with as little as $1 with no account fees or trade commissions on U.S. stocks and ETFs.
That's music to my ears.
I can only talk.
Investing involves risk, including risk of loss. 0 account fees apply to retail brokerage accounts only. $0 commission does not apply to customers designated by Fidelity as a professional equity trader. A limited number of ETFs are subject to a service fee of $100. See details at fidelity.com/commissions. Fidelity Brokerage Services, LLC, member NYSE SIPC.
What does a 4,500-year-old bare-chested statue, a massive 64% drop in rainfall, and a highly suspicious 2-hour airport delay have in common? They are all, at their core, battlegrounds for control. So welcome to the Deep Dive, where essentially your filter through the noise today, and our mission is to systematically unpack a stack of 11 major news items from India and the world for June 16th, 2026.
Right, and because there is just an immense amount of ground to cover today, we are setting a strict structural rule for this deep dive. We're going to treat every single news item on this list as a completely isolated event.
Yeah.
So we'll move through them one by one, dedicating time to the mechanics of each, but we are absolutely not going to try and blend them or force artificial connections between the topics.
Exactly, just the facts, the deeper context, and the core insights for each specific event. Okay, let's unpack this.
Let's do it.
Headline 1. India and Slovakia elevate bilateral ties to comprehensive partnership. Now, Prime Minister Narendra Modi just concluded a visit to Bratislava, which is it's the first by an Indian PM since 1993.
Right, yeah, it's been a long time.
Yeah, so on the surface, this looks like standard diplomatic handshaking. But it feels to me like reconnecting with an old friend and immediately starting a high-tech business together.
Yep.
Why is Slovakia suddenly such a crucial strategic partner for India right now?
Well, it's essentially about unlocking a strategic gateway. PM Modi and Slovak Prime Minister Robert Fico, they signed an agreement that goes way beyond pleasantries. For India, Slovakia offers a vital physical foothold for leveraging the new India-EU trade negotiations.
Okay.
They're specifically targeting things like automotive and advanced electronics manufacturing. But the real strategic win here is the diplomatic leverage. Slovakia officially backed India's bid for permanent membership in the UN Security Council.
Wow, okay.
And maybe even more immediately, they're supporting India's entry into the Nuclear Suppliers Group, the NSG.
Right, and just to pause on that, the NSG is absolutely critical because that's the body that dictates global access to nuclear technology and materials. Getting backing there is a major win for India's long-term energy security.
Precisely. And, there's a heavy security component, too. They set up a joint working group on counterterrorism. The joint statement actually referenced the April 2025 Pahalgam attacks specifically.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so it signals a very unified, direct stance against cross-border terrorism.
But I noticed a really interesting academic bridge, too. The Technical University of Kosice will host the first ever ICCR chair in artificial intelligence. So it's not just trade, it's about embedding Indian tech expertise right into European institutions.
Yeah, exactly.
And to cap it off, PM Modi received the Order of the White Double Cross from President Peter Pellegrini, which is Slovakia's highest honor, right before heading to the G7 in Nevian.
It just thoroughly cements the diplomatic weight of this visit. It's a highly calculated alignment of defense, tech, and trade.
All right, closing the book on that one, let's look at a completely different arena. Headline 2. Government raises diesel and ATF export duties. Petrol unchanged. Now, tweaking tax numbers sounds incredibly dry, but my understanding is that this is basically a protective measure. It's like putting a steep cover charge on the exit door so the VIPs, in this case our domestic fuel supplies, stay inside the club. How does tweaking these numbers actually protect us from global shocks?
It all comes down to controlling the profit margins of oil refiners. So the Central Board of Indirect Taxes and Customs, the CBIC, they review global oil prices every 2 weeks.
Right.
Right now, because of severe geopolitical tension in West Asia, global fuel prices are super volatile. If the global price spikes, an Indian refiner would naturally want to just sell their product overseas, right, where they can make the highest profit.
Right, which would leave the domestic market completely dry. So raising the export duty is essentially the government artificially lowering that foreign profit margin to incentivize refiners to keep the fuel at home.
Exactly, yeah. The math reflects that strategy. So effective June 16th, the export duty on diesel was raised to 14 rupees per liter, up from 13.5. Aviation turbine fuel, or ATF, that went up to 12.5 rupees per liter from 9.5.
But petrol stayed the same.
Yeah, petrol was left completely unchanged at an export levy of 1.5 rupees per liter.
And just to translate this to the everyday listener, this does not change what you pay at the local pump, does it?
It does not. The domestic excise duty on petrol and diesel remains completely untouched. This is purely an external financial lever the government pulls to make sure our domestic supply stays stable when the international market gets, well, unpredictable.
Putting that economic mechanism aside, let's step into the political theater. Headline 3. Congress accuses Amit Shah of orchestrating TMC rebel MPs' merger to boost NDA strength. Hold on, I need to push back here before we even get into the accusations. You're telling me 20 members of parliament can just legally merge into an obscure 3-year-old party without triggering massive anti-defection penalties?
Well, that is the exact mathematical and legal controversy playing out right now. So, under the 10th schedule of the Constitution, which is the anti-defection law, individual MPs who switch sides are disqualified.
Right.
However, the law provides an exception. If at least 2/3 of the members of a legislature party agree to a merger, they are legally protected from disqualification.
So if you hit that 2/3 threshold, the law considers it a legitimate political realignment rather than, individual defection.
That's the mechanism, yeah. And in this specific case, 20 rebel Trinamool Congress MPs utilized that provision to announce their merger with the Nationalist Citizens Party of India, the NCPI. Now, the Congress Party, led by Jairam Ramesh on this issue, is fiercely criticizing the move. Ramesh explicitly alleged that Union Home Minister Amit Shah orchestrated this entire maneuver to artificially secure a 2/3 majority for the NDA.
And the rhetoric was sharp. Ramesh called Shah a desperate figure and, quote, an absolute disgrace to the legacy of Sardar Patel.
Yeah, Congress is framing this as a severe erosion of democratic norms. But objectively, what makes the situation mathematically staggering is that the NCPI, which is a registered but unrecognized party formed merely 3 years ago, is now poised to become the second largest constituent of the NDA.
Just purely because of this sudden influx of 20 MPs.
Exactly.
It's a massive shift in coalition dynamics orchestrated through very specific legal arithmetic.
Okay, let's shift our focus entirely now. Headline 4. India's monsoon stalls dramatically as satellite data shows 64% rainfall deficit. When I hear that a monsoon has stalled, I picture something mechanical. It's like a massive freight train suddenly losing all its momentum right after leaving the station. Is this just a normal delay, or is the satellite data telling...
This episode is brought to you by Fox One. Watch all 104 matches of the FIFA World Cup live in 4K for just $19.99 a month with 3 days free. Build your own multi-view, choose up to 3 streams, and follow player spotlights. Stay on top of every moment with live stats, highlights, and instant replays. The FIFA World Cup, streaming live on Fox One. Offers are subject to change. See fox.com for complete terms and conditions.
Something more alarming.
Your freight train analogy is actually scientifically spot on. The engine of the monsoon relies on high-altitude atmospheric currents, the jet streams. These upper atmospheric winds act as a conveyor belt, pulling moisture-laden systems across the subcontinent.
Right now, meteorologists are reporting that these upper atmospheric winds have been severely disrupted. They've basically slipped out of alignment.
So the clouds literally just stop moving.
Yes, and the sheer scale of the stall is what's alarming. The India Meteorological Department reports that between June 4 and June 15, the country received a mere 19.2 millimeters of rainfall.
Wow.
Yeah, the normal dress line for this exact period should be 53.7 millimeters. That results in a staggering 64% deficit.
Which explains the satellite imagery I saw. Large swaths of central, southern, and eastern India are painted in yellow and red on the precipitation maps, indicating deficient to severely deficient rainfall. And the INSAT 3DS satellite images from mid-June show a near-total absence of monsoon cloud bands.
The implications are immediate, and they're severe. A collapse this early in the season drastically impacts agricultural sowing cycles and introduces severe water stress. If that atmospheric drive belt doesn't re-engage soon, the agricultural fallout will be significant.
Moving to our next isolated event, and it's a tragic one. Headline 5. Opposition slams PM Modi's silence after U.S. strike kills Indian sailors in Gulf. Diplomatically speaking, how does a government navigate a situation where a strategic partner's military action results in civilian casualties of its own citizens?
It demands an incredibly delicate dual-track approach. You have to manage public outrage domestically while handling the geopolitical fallout privately. The immutable facts are that U.S. military strikes on commercial vessels in the Gulf of Oman resulted in the tragic deaths of 3 Indian sailors.
Aditya Sharma, Shivana Charesha, and Patnala Suresh.
Yes, and several others were injured.
And the timing complicates things immensely, considering Prime Minister Modi is scheduled to meet with U.S. President Donald Trump shortly.
Which is precisely why the domestic political reaction has been volcanic. Congress leader Supriya Shrinat held a press conference heavily condemning the Prime Minister's silence 4 days after the incident. She questioned if Modi would still shake hands with Trump, who she explicitly labeled the perpetrator.
Shrinat also leveled a very specific accusation against External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar, didn't she?
She did. She accused Jaishankar of misrepresenting his back-channel talks with U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio. She pointed out that Rubio's subsequent public warnings contradicted Jaishankar's assertion that India had lodged a strong, definitive protest.
And the demands from the broader opposition are escalating too. Congress wants the ongoing trade deal with the U.S. scrapped. The left parties issued a joint statement demanding formal compensation for the victims' families, and they've announced nationwide protests. Plus, AAP leader Arvind Kejriwal openly called Trump a murderer and fiercely criticized Modi for accepting a congratulatory message from Trump on the very day the casualties were reported.
It is a textbook example of how sudden geopolitical crossfire immediately tests the durability of strategic partnerships.
Let's look at another diplomatic flashpoint. Headline 6. Bangladesh summons Indian diplomat after PM's aide stopped at Delhi airport. Now, a 2-hour airport delay might just be a terrible travel day for most of us, but in the world of international diplomacy, what kind of signal does this actually send?
Well, in high-level diplomacy, there is virtually no such thing as an accidental 2-hour delay for a senior foreign official.
Right, it's deliberate.
Exactly. It is almost always a calculated application of diplomatic friction. The official in question is Zahid ur Rahman, the advisor on policy and strategy affairs to Bangladesh Prime Minister Tariq Rahman. He was detained at Indira Gandhi International Airport.
And his reaction was incredibly definitive. Even after airport security eventually cleared him, he refused to enter India and flew straight back to Dhaka via Colombo.
That refusal is a potent diplomatic countersignal. It communicates that the initial delay was viewed as an unacceptable slight. Dhaka immediately escalated the matter by formally summoning Indian Deputy High Commissioner Pawan Badher. Bangladesh's Foreign Minister Khalilur Rahman publicly expressed deep disappointment, labeling the incident unexpected and unfortunate.
To understand the context, we have to look at who is currently in power in Dhaka.
Oh, absolutely. We are dealing with a newly installed Bangladesh Nationalist Party, or BNP-led government. Historically, New Delhi's relationship with the BNP requires careful calibration. While India hasn't offered a public explanation for the delay in the language of diplomacy, creating a bottleneck for a top aide is often read as a deliberate vetting maneuver or a subtle display of leverage during a transitional political period.
Opening a completely new file, let's move to domestic civil unrest. Headline 7. CJP founder Abhijit Dipki slapped during Jaipur protests, 2 detained. We know protests are inherently volatile, but to see someone physically attacked while being carried on supporters' shoulders is like a spark hitting a powder keg. Despite the chaos, what are the core underlying issues driving hundreds of youths to the Shahid Smarak in the first place?
The physical altercation was definitely the flashpoint, but the fuel for the protest was highly systemic. Hundreds of youths had gathered to demonstrate against a wave of alleged paper leaks in major national and state exams.
Like the NEET, CBSE, and CWET.
Yes, specifically those. This ties into massive, widespread frustration over youth unemployment and corruption. They were specifically demanding the resignation of Union Education Minister Dharmendra Pradhan.
And they were also protesting the government's handling of physical infrastructure, invoking the tragic collapse of a government school building in Shalawar last year that killed 7 students.
Yes, so the crowd was already highly emotionally charged, and into this environment arrives the
This episode is brought to you by Viore. For Father's Day, give him something built for wherever the day takes him. Viore's performance joggers, breathable polos, and travel-ready layers are made to move. From workouts to downtime, on the clock or off, these are the everyday staples he'll wear on repeat. Get 20% off your first order at Vuori.com/Father's Day. Exclusions apply. See site for details.
Founder of the Cockroach Janata Party, the CJP, Abhijit Dipki. According to reports, unidentified individuals suddenly manhandled and repeatedly slapped him.
Wow.
His supporters immediately retaliated, resulting in a physical brawl until police intervened and detained 2 youths.
But what is notable from an organizational standpoint is how Dipk reacted post-incident. Rather than escalating the violence, he released a video message on X urging strict restraint. He explicitly invoked the peaceful principles of Gandhi and Ambedkar.
Right.
He told his supporters that the attack was merely a tactic to intimidate the CJP and divert public attention away from the core issues like the NEET leaks.
It really highlights how quickly civil demonstrations can fracture into violence and the massive effort required by leadership to steer the narrative back to the structural demands.
Next up, a fascinating legal debate. Headline 8. Karnataka Home Minister seeks full disclosure from RSS on legal status and finances. Okay, I need you to explain this to me. If an organization has 60,000 branches and millions of members, how is it legally possible for it to operate without being registered as a trust or a company?
It hinges on a very specific and historically accepted legal classification. The Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh, or RSS, has operated for decades under the stance that it is simply a body of individuals.
Okay.
RSS chief Mohan Bhagwat has publicly noted that both the Indian judicial system and the income tax department have historically examined this framework and accepted their unregistered status.
But Karnataka's Home Minister, Priyank Kharge, is looking at the sheer scale of the organization and saying that classification defies logic. He actually quoted the RSS's own 2025-2026 report in his letter to Bhagwat to make his point.
He did, and the numbers are staggering. Kharge highlighted that in Karnataka alone, the RSS runs 4,127 daily shakas. They hosted Samajotsavas with 19.6 lakh participants and organized route marches featuring over 2.2 lakh uniformed individuals.
That is massive.
Yeah, so Kharge's argument is that an entity capable of mobilizing resources and manpower on that scale cannot logically avoid the taxation, accountability, and permission standards expected of standard public-facing entities. He called for, quote, constitutional introspection during their centenary year.
So what is the RSS's actual defense against that? Where is the insight into how they manage their money if they aren't a legal entity?
The insight lies in their decentralized structure. While the umbrella parent body, the RSS itself, remains an unregistered body of individuals, the vast majority of their physical assets, schools, and financial activities are actually managed by thousands of distinct, legally registered affiliated trusts and societies. So the funds are regulated, just not under a single central corporate banner.
Fascinating legal architecture. Turning to educational controversies. Headline 9. Insert to restore original Indus Valley dancing girl image after textbook alteration sparks criticism. To me, this feels a bit like painting a T-shirt onto the statue of David. What does modifying a 4,500-year-old artifact actually do to a student's understanding of history?
It essentially turns archaeology into historical fiction. The artifact we are talking about is the famous bronze dancing girl figurine from Mohenjo-Daro. In the newly released Class 9 Madhurima Arts textbook, the image was published with artificial shading across the bare torso.
Deliberately obscuring the anatomical details of the sculpture.
Yes. But the backlash was swift, and NSERT director Dinesh Siklani has now confirmed they will restore the authentic image. The criticism was heavily driven by Michel Danino, who actually headed the committee for the Class 6 textbooks where the figurine was displayed accurately.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, Danino slammed the alteration, revealing he was previously told by some officials that the figurine wasn't age-appropriate. He verified that actual teachers had never raised this concern. Danino called the shaded image a fake artifact driven by an outdated Victorian discomfort with nudity.
And from a purely educational standpoint, it ruins the lesson. The chapter is designed to teach the ancient lost wax casting technique and to discuss the figurine's specific cultural significance. If you digitally alter the source material, you are actively undermining a student's ability to analyze the genuine artistic and historical expression of the Harappan civilization.
You simply cannot teach historical accuracy by altering the primary evidence.
Let's pivot from history to sports. Headline 10. Sri Lanka A edge India A in fiery super overclash marked by on-field altercation. A super over in cricket is literally the most pressure cooker environment in sports. The margins for error are zero. How does Sri Lanka manage to contain India's heavy hitters in those final 6 balls?
It required absolute, almost unnatural composure. The match in Dambulla ended in a tie.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile with a message for everyone paying big wireless way too much. Please, for the love of everything good in this world, stop. With Mint, you can get premium wireless for just $15 a month. Of course, if you enjoy overpaying, no judgments, but that's weird. Okay, one judgment. Anyway, give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. Intro rate first 3 months only, then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See full terms at mintmobile.com.
Forcing the super over. India A sent out Vaibhav Suryavanshi and Suryan Shej. Both are specifically known for their explosive, big-hitting capabilities.
Right, and they needed 16 runs to win, which statistically is very doable for those two.
Highly doable, which arguably made India the slight favorites going into the over. However, Sri Lanka's sling action pacer Kugathas Mathulan took the ball and simply executed his deliveries flawlessly under immense psychological pressure. He successfully defended the 16 runs.
But the psychological pressure clearly boiled over after the final delivery. The reports note a pretty severe physical confrontation.
They do. The emotional intensity of the tri-series snapped immediately after the final ball. Suryavanshi was seen aggressively pushing a Sri Lankan player, which instantly triggered an on-field scuffle. The teams actually had to be physically separated.
Wow.
Sri Lanka A had struggled to close out tight games earlier in the series, making this victory intensely meaningful for them. That desperation, combined with the format, caused the frayed nerves on both sides to just ignite.
Finally, for our last isolated item today, headline 11. Israel says it will not withdraw from territory seized in Lebanon, Syria, and Gaza. To put the physical scale in perspective, we are talking about 1,000 square kilometers, which is roughly the size of New York City. With an interim U.S.-Iran deal supposedly days away, how does a unilateral declaration like this impact the negotiation table?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it acts as a massive blockade on diplomatic progress. Defense Minister Israel Katz publicly declared that Israel intends to remain indefinitely in the territories it has seized over the past 2.5 years across Gaza, Lebanon, and Syria.
Indefinitely.
Yes. And he also issued a stark warning that if Hezbollah or Iran retaliate, Israel will respond with great force.
And the timing is not a coincidence. Pakistan just announced that a highly anticipated interim deal between the U.S. and Iran is expected to be signed in Geneva on June 19.
And here's exactly how the mechanism of this standoff works. Iran has explicitly linked its agreement with the U.S. to Israel halting its military operations against Hezbollah in Lebanon.
Okay, I see.
By Katz declaring that Israel will not withdraw and will hold these territories indefinitely, he is utilizing physical geography as a veto.
He is altering the facts on the ground so drastically that it makes the terms of the Geneva deal almost impossible to execute. It forces all parties to deal with the reality of the seized land rather than, hypothetical treaties on paper.
Precisely. It highlights the severe fragility of the de-escalation efforts when unilateral military facts collide with multilateral diplomatic goals.
And there you have it. To you, the listener, we've just methodically unpacked 11 distinct, complex events from a single day. And while we've respected our rule to treat them as isolated incidents, examining them closely reveals a powerful underlying reality about how the world operates.
It shows us that whether you are looking at domestic tax codes, international borders, or ancient artifacts, the underlying mechanics of human action are deeply complex and require careful dissection to truly understand.
As you digest these 11 isolated headlines, consider this. Whether it's an altered image in a history book, a sudden shift in monsoon winds, or a geopolitical standoff over a patch of land, every news item is fundamentally a story about control. Who controls the narrative, who controls the resources, and who controls the future? What unseen forces are shaping the headlines you'll wake up to tomorrow?
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive.
Stay curious, and we'll catch you next time.